Graduates Conversations podcast.
All right, so next question is from Victoria. Certified Provisional Interpreter, languages are Dari, Persian, and Hazaragi. The number of years a practitioner in the workplace is not recognized in certification. For example, after 20 years, at least one step up is fair. So I'm just going to see if I got this question right. If I'm at certified provisional level and I do that for 20 years, I should automatically be bumped up to certified interpreter level. Correct? Is that what you got from the question as well?
That's how we understand that question, I guess.
So can this happen? Is 20 years enough for one step up? Is that fair?
Yeah, I appreciate that where the practitioner is coming from in that, but the real the cornerstone of NAATI's certification testing, and the reason that when we did the improvement to NAATI testing review in 2012 and we did the development of the new system, which commenced in 2018, one of the key takeouts of it was that NAATI would conduct the testing. So in the previous system, there was some people that got it through completion of a course with a university or registered training organisation and being tested by them, but there's lots of variability in different groups or organisations running the tests. So that key part of the system moving forward, and so I appreciate this sounds like I'm going around the question, but I will get to the point of it. The key point for NAATI testing is there is one consistent standard for Australia. It's not RMIT or TAFE South Australia or any other group determining what their level of expertise is in it or what they believe the pass is. It's one assessing authority in NAATI. The same logic applies to the higher level tests. So although we appreciate that candidates or practitioners get a lot of experience in the workplace, we don't know, it's hard to determine what that experience entailed, whether you could work theoretically in an industry for 10 years and never quite do it right. You might speak in the third person rather than the first person. And even though you've got that experience, it's not actually the knowledge, skills and attributes that have been determined as the national standard. So again, although we appreciate the length of expertise and experience from practitioners at the CPI level wanting to go up, but also at a recognised practicing level that might want to go up, it's still a requirement for us to test, because then anyone that uses a certified interpreter or translator, any consumer, any government business, and for practitioners as well, everyone knows that they've been assessed on the same standards. And that's what we believe is both the uniqueness, but also the consistency and the confidence that people get from having that credential.
I guess, if you look at that credentialing system, I kind of sometimes try to explain it to my students as like a driver's license. Even if you're the world's best car driver, let's say you're Lewis Hamilton, and you've been doing it for 20 years, you're not going to be able to go and drive a truck with the same license, correct? You still need to go and prepare and sit for a truck driving license. Yep. So, maybe it's a bit of a off-center analogy, but, you do still need to meet certain standards, prepare. There are certain other things that are tested, other skills that are tested at that level. And just because you are very experienced in one thing doesn't mean you have the skills to do it at another level, I guess. Mm-hmm. Could we say it in that way?
You could. And I think that Lewis Hamilton analogy is good, because if you look at him, he's clearly one of the best drivers in the world, 7 world championships, but he doesn't have to follow road rules, and he only drives one way around a track.
Correct.
So although an excellent driver, potentially doesn't know how to indicate or use stop signs. So hence why one testing body for this system.
On that Formula One, story is that Jacques Villeneuve came to Istanbul one day. he drove on the road for about half an hour and then pulled over and said, "I can't drive in this city. Everyone drives like me." So, yep, that's why I don't think, the Istanbul Grand Prix is always easier compared to driving on the roads of Istanbul. All right. Okay, this one. I like this question. Let's see who's going to take this up. Western Australia, Spanish Certified Provisional Interpreter. When will you change the name for the Certified Provisional, that's in capitals, Interpreter, to Paraprofessional Interpreter as it used to be? Provisional is the most misleading and unsuitable denomination, and it affects how we are perceived as interpreters. There is nothing provisional about me being an interpreter. I have been doing it for 25 years, for over 25 years. The change in the name needs to be as soon as possible.
I'll take that one.
All right, Aurelie, this is yours.
Yes. So, yeah, I appreciate the comment, and I agree that the term provisional is not ideal. There's a bit of a history to that. When NAATI reviewed the accreditation system to develop the certification system, a series of recommendations were made. That was part of our INT report, our improvement improvement to, sorry, I've forgotten our improvement.
It's okay, I'll cut it out and paste it.
Yeah, yeah.
Improvement to NAATI testing.
Anyway. So there were a series of recommendations, and one of them was to change the name of our old paraprofessional interpreter test to provisional, and that was actually proposed in having in mind that after the first 2 or 3 years of being at a provisional level, the candidate could attempt the next level up in testing and therefore become a certified interpreter. However, as we've discussed in previous questions, depending on the demand and the requirements to create a new test and the professionals available to become examiners, it is not always possible to offer that next level up. And therefore that terminology might not be actually suiting the situation now. So actually NAATI is regularly undergoing improvements of its system, and we are actually entering a phase of more improvements and review of the current system. So as part of that, we will be looking at the name of that test. But right now, we don't have a planned change, but this is definitely
it's good to know that you've been thinking about this. Yeah. So this isn't news to you.
No. No.
Yep. All right. Well, I want to say to this interpreter from Western Australia that this is no news to Aurelie and to her team, and they're actually thinking about it. So
that's right.
Hang in there.
Yeah, and we can't promise anything, of course. I mean, but this is definitely something we are considering in the future. We may be considering in the future.
But it's good to know that it's on the table. It's been spoken about. Same interpreter asking this question. When will you lower your recertification fees? They were lowered for COVID. Please keep them at $99 or lower, not higher. Interpreters are not very well paid. For as long as this is the case, please keep them as low as possible. Much appreciated.
So you're right, we did reduce the fees for recertification during COVID. They're actually still reduced up until 30th of June this year. It was part of the support package that our board agreed to, along with the reduction in professional development and work practice requirements from sort of April last year right through to June 30th. However, they will be going back up. We're committed to keeping them at the rate they are. So the recertification fee in 2018 was $198, and it will stay that in when it goes back up. It will stay at $198, so we're not putting it up every year. I guess I appreciate the point of interpreters not being very well paid, and that it is a cost, it's a burden, but there is also a whole team of people that are working to advocate for interpreters and ensure that the professional development and work practice requirements are in place and checked and valid. There's a group of people like Aurelie and I that are involved in more testing and ensuring the ongoing system where, for anyone that doesn't know, NAATI is reasonably unique in its structure in that we're a private not-for-profit company. So we're not a government department or agency. There's not any unlimited amount of funds there. We have a membership base of the 9 governments of Australia, and they do give us some funds to help offset the costs of delivering certification tests. So, which I know is not part of the question, but I think relevant. So
I think it's very relevant, so people know where NAATI's money comes from and why do they need payments from memberships.
Yeah,
so I think it's very important that you explain that, Michael. Thanks.
Yeah, so the certification tests alone cost us considerably more than we charge to run them, as we've said in a previous one of these conversations, is with 7 odd people involved just in the delivery of the test. The cost, which we appreciate, is expensive, but it doesn't even go halfway towards covering the costs of actually delivering it. And then with things like the My NAATI portal and the other administrative costs of the business, the 198 for recertification, we try and keep it as low as possible. As I said, we've not increased for 3 years, and we won't do it for next year either. But compared to other registration systems, I grabbed a couple of examples before, but something like teachers is $90 per annum. The AICD, the Australian Institute of Company Directors, is $550 per annum, and certified practicing accountants is $325 per annum. So compared to other professional organisations, we're reasonably cheap. We'll keep it as low as we can, and we'll try and hold that price where we can. So, appreciate that it's a cost, but we believe that it's appropriate given the type of organisation and membership.
Thank you. I think you've explained that very well, and how there is a lot of cost involved, even just with the testing, and the price or the figure that NAATI charges for the testing doesn't even start to cover the actual cost. So thank you very much for giving us more detail about the structure of NAATI and how it financially works as well. Okay, next question is New South Wales from a Farsi certified translator. Hi, any indication of when you may have testing for advanced translator level for Persian in the future? The old system used to have it, and I'm wondering if the new system will too. So old system had advanced translator for Persian into and from English, and the new system doesn't? And will it?
Yeah, so I'll take that one. So we have decided to delay the development of the advanced translator test to focus first on the rollout of the certification of the certified translator test. We've been rolling out the new system over 3 years now, and as Michael mentioned before, we are aiming at having 53 languages available. And so our focus has been on the first levels of testing, but NAATI is certainly considering having an advanced translator test available at some point. But for now, we're not contemplating having it until probably 2023. So there is still, there'll still be some time before it's available. But again, as we mentioned in previous question, we do encourage people as well to mention their interests. So we can also take that on board. But for now, it won't be available in the short term.
Okay, but it is in the pipeline.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Okay, Victoria, Tamil language. If a person has completed diploma of interpreting in the year 2015 and has been working as an interpreter since the year 2012, could he or she sit for the NAATI directly instead of doing the competency tests? This is for the Tamil language.
Yeah, so I'll have to make a couple of assumptions in the question. So The part where they've said they've been working as an interpreter, I'm assuming they've been working without any NAATI certification. So if that's the case, the training remains relevant for us as part of the prerequisites, as does the English proficiency that comes along with it if it was done in English language, that diploma. But ethics and intercultural, because it is a skill that would need refreshing or to be retested, we would require ethics and intercultural tests for whether the course itself was more than 3 years ago in Australia.
Yeah,
but
so
also,
it's 2015, so that's 6 years ago.
Yeah, so we would
that
require
still
ethics
valid?
and intercultural.
Yeah.
Yep. And likewise, just to give a parallel for it, if someone had done their training at Cairo University, for example, we would, even though the training would be recent, we would require ethics and intercultural to bolster that as well as part of our prerequisites. So, there's one thing in the skill of translating or interpreting, but NAATI certification is more than that, and it's the knowledge of intercultural and ethical competencies as well.
Okay, our next question comes from a certified interpreter in the Arabic language from New South Wales. We know leaving the interpreter for interpreting assignment and the patient in a closed room with a psychiatrist on a video link is against health and safety rules, unacceptable and risky. But this is happening in some clinics. What will you do about it? So let me just clarify here. The interpreter and the patient is in the room, and it is the doctor or the healthcare professional is joining in by a video link. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Usually you would have everyone in the same room, but in this case, the interpreter is left by themselves with the patient while the healthcare professional is in a remote location.
So I can answer this question. Well, first, NAATI is a certifying body. So here we can't really, comment or really influence that situation directly. Appreciate where it's coming from, and I can see there is definitely an ethical issue in this situation. I think the best course of action would be to make management of this company aware of the situation and refer them to the code of ethics potentially as to working conditions. But this is not something NAATI can directly influence, unfortunately. So,
but I guess the recommendation here is to also probably contact your agency, tell them that this is happening. That would probably be the best thing to do, as opposed to talking to maybe that healthcare institution directly. Call your agency, tell them that this is happening. This goes against health and safety and workplace safety. And the agency will then get in touch with the institution and hopefully sort this out. This is quite a serious matter. When we're doing face-to-face interpreting, it's not like the doctor leaves all of a sudden and you're left there with the patient. So, why should this be any different in a remote interpreting situation? So, yes, if something like this is happening or has happened, please let the agency know, and your agency should sort that out with the institution. This is quite a serious matter. So thank you, Aurelie. Okay, let's move on. New South Wales Greek interpreter also learning Auslan. Well done. In the next few months, I'll be sitting for the NAATI CPI test. I have looked high and low for Greek prep courses and found absolutely nothing. So how does one prepare to study for the NAATI test? Do I concentrate on glossaries or dialogues? I have requested guidance from NAATI, RMIT, TAFE and AUSIT and have hit a brick wall. How would you best utilize the 15 minutes prep time before each part of the test?
Okay, I can answer that one.
Aurelie, this one has your name written all over it.
Yes. So for the CPI test, we have 3 tasks, and as you know, they're all 3 dialogues. So candidates get a 15-minute preparation time before each task. Now, it is not a lot of time, But during that time, the candidate is provided with a brief which is in the form of a narrative text, the brief to the next task. So what we recommend is that they use the 15 minutes to do as much research based on the brief as possible, so they can look at terminology or the topic of the dialogue. During the preparation time, candidates can have access to an internet-connected device that they would bring with them. So it can be a laptop, a phone, or a tablet, so that can help them to maximize this preparation time and work on the terminology or the topic that is highlighted in the brief. So that's what I would recommend as to how to use the 15 minutes. Now, in terms of preparing for the test itself, preparation, of course, doesn't start in the preparation room 15 minutes before the test. This is something that needs to be planned, and training obviously is one of the prerequisites, but it's necessary. I did mention short courses before, which can be really good to prepare for the test. Additional may be needed to gain the skills needed to do the test, but there are different options. There's some information about training on the NAATI website under the Our Services section. There's a section about endorsed qualification institutions where the potential candidates can find more information about training. I also did mention the different domains for each task. That is also available in our candidate information on the website. And working on glossaries, general knowledge about relevant domains to the Australian society is also a good thing to do. So, yeah.
Yep. Now, that's a very good answer. Thank you very much. I also say to my students that 15 minutes, if you don't know about the topic, you're not going to learn in 15 minutes everything about that topic.
That's right.
So, you have to, it's ongoing preparation, like you say, ongoing building your contextual knowledge about the different domains. And I always say as well, that 15 minutes, try to refresh your memory, build a little terminology, little glossary, but also just try to imagine or anticipate the dialogue that's going to be happening between these two people, so that you get a bit of an idea and get your mind into that headspace.
That's right.
I guess, again, I like my sports analogies. If you're preparing for a marathon, you don't get ready for a marathon in just 15 minutes before the marathon. You build your body and you build your mind towards it. So, and then in that last 15 minutes, it's all about, getting in the headspace and doing a few stretches and warming up a little. I think it's just, we got to think that the 15 minutes is a bit like that. And, it complements the years or the months of preparation that you have put in for that final 3 hours or so for the test, I guess.
Yeah.
So same practitioner is asking, what is the failure rate of participants in NAATI testing? How many fail their first go? How many fail their second go?
So although I can appreciate the answer, the request for an answer on it, I can't give one. And it's not that we don't collect that data, it's just that any figure that I gave that was a singular figure is, it doesn't take into account any of the variabilities that affect it. So we have several thousand candidates a year in multiple different languages, in multiple different test types. And to narrow it down even to a singular language is problematic because we have varying levels of education and experience going into it. So a singular number, although I could provide it, would be completely out of context. So as mentioned, there's some languages where we've tested dozens of candidates and others where we've done a handful. So the statistics aren't, the data set's not large enough to give an appropriate number on it. As a general statement though, I could say that where candidates have received higher levels of training, so a bachelor's or master's or above compared to a diploma or a skill set, is considerably more likely to pass. And in the question as well with the supplementary tests, considerably more likely in that second attempt to pass as well. Again, I can't really just give a singular number or even a singular number per language, because someone that's done a 12-week skill set compared to someone that's done 5 or 6 years to a master's level, it's not a fair comparison or number.
That's a lovely diplomatic answer you gave.
I try.
Thank you, Michael. Well, let me put it out to you then. Is it a high success rate, or is it a high? I know you can't give me numbers, but is the failure rate high or low? Or?
I would comment it's a difficult test. So
okay, yep.
Yeah, the pass rate's not huge. Again, I can't put it down to a number, but in some languages and some training scenarios, you're looking at numbers where sort of 6 out of 10 will pass. And in other scenarios, it can be single digits, but again, highly variable depending on language, skill level and training.
Practice, practice, practice. We can clearly say that it's not an easy test.
Yep.
So good preparation. And it's not something that's probably going to be done in the last 15 minutes or the last week or two.
Absolutely.
It's not something that you can do heads down and learn interpreting in a couple of weeks, right?
All Graduates Conversations Podcast.